Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I made 2 introductions to this video that were going to be to my regular sort of content that I do. A follow-up to my, if I suddenly drop like a fly, goodbye video that I made. I'm going to turn that into a playlist, including this video and my 105th edition of the Journey series. And any other follow-up videos I make over the years can go on that playlist for people who, if something happens, either I die or there's I can't make content anymore or something like that, there'll be that playlist. But anyways, these introductions went so long, and I had these experiences with a movie and TV show and, all this other stuff. I decided to just turn it into a follow-up video to the video I made 2 days ago, and then I'll make more videos with the content of Fetterman, some of these other things in the upcoming days, but I just want to do this pre-introduction. So it's going to sound like I'm introducing a video, but the introduction became the video itself because it's over an hour long. So here it is. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Just a little introduction. I'm doing this today, but this video won't be up until tomorrow, Wednesday, or I don't even know, maybe Thursday, based on everything that's happening, because I got an extra video I'm putting up today on Pockets of the Future. But anyways, I was scheduled to have a meeting with Armando, and it was weird because the email says somewhere here that the person's name is really Santosh. I don't know where that is. Somewhere along here there was that. I'm not sure. Like it's Armando Caro at google.com, but somewhere else it said Santosh. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if they're just changing the name here. When and then Santo Santo, I don't know. The different, I don't know if that's something else. Who cares? I'm getting distracted here. But I scheduled a meeting for 1:30, and then, of course, I knew the meeting was today, but I was pretty sure it was at 1:30. But I looked, and they sent me something to join the meeting via, like, some kind of Google Zoom. And then later I found out there was a phone number, right? Like a phone, number to call. And they gave me the wrong number. They didn't have the one for America, so it didn't work at first. But first I tried to join the video one at 10:30 a.m. because it said 10:30 a.m. And I had forgot because I did this once before. YouTube used to have advisors for, like if you reach a certain number of subscribers, I was like close to 100,000. Maybe it was even before that. It was probably 80, 90,000. And they would have an advisor talk to you how to grow your channel, which I took the meeting. I met with 2 different people. And the first woman was a Republican Christian. I think that they were, whatever. And then some other guy I met when I had my operation and I was on Percocet, whatever. But what I forgot from that time, because that was like 2017, so a number of years ago, is that they send the email, like you make the appointment in your time, but then they send the link for Pacific time, California time. And I didn't realize that. And, why not spell that out? You're maybe the number one software company in the world. And so I tried to get on the meeting at 10:30 a.m. and it didn't work because, it was the wrong time. And so then I hurried through lunch. I made lunch. My wife and I had lunch, and then I had to hurry in here, and I, really wasn't ready, but it was time for the meeting. So I got on the video, and nobody showed up. So, and I don't even know how to work these things, and I don't do this kind of stuff. And so I'm sitting there with a video. I'm doing other work, and then I said, all right, I think it said something about a phone number. So I dialed the phone number, and my phone service wouldn't connect me because it was the wrong phone number. And then I had to go to a list of phone numbers and find the one for America because they had the wrong country. So they screwed that up. And I dialed that number. And then I went on and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm here. And I was like, hello? And then from my computer, it says hello. And then I clicked on the video thing. It said two people in the meeting, but they were both me, right? My phone and my computer were having a meeting, and I was, the go-between. And I'm like, WTF, right? You spegged me on the meeting, no email, no anything. You weren't there. They could have said earlier, just to save me some time this morning, that was make sure that I knew what my time, could say 1:30 your time, right? Because that's what it said when I signed up. It gave options of times, and I signed up for 1:30. But then when they send it back to me, they say 10:30, which is, again, I mean, I figured it out, but why do I have to? Um, and so, these are not my strong suits, logistics and things like this, right? And the whole thing's like just a cluster boop, right? Cluster boop. And so, I mean, it's just so embarrassing. They're a software company. They're so incompetent. They ran my ad in the wrong way. And now, I was thinking about it too, and not in the way that I'm some sort of a victim, because, I love YouTube because of all the things that it's provided for me. Just, I love it as a viewer. I love it as a presenter, as a creator. I met my wife through YouTube, and wonderful things. And for YouTube's side, I produce content every day. I'm like an independent contractor that makes them money, that produces content for them every day. I have a number of their other services. I have YouTube Premium and YouTube TV. So they've gotten revenue from me. I bring people to the site because there's people who just watch my videos because they're sick of YouTube. People say that all the time in comments. So I bring people in, right? And, I've been doing this forever. I had a YouTube channel since 2007. And I've, done this as a job since 2014. So I'm like, one of the OGs of like this kind of truth or stuff here. And, they have benefited from my participation, right? I brought in the money, I brought in there, I promoted their site, I've done things for them, right? And now they've rewarded me and so many, like not me personally, but all of us, by instead of doing their job of getting my channel out for free, to help grow my channel by bringing it out through, people's searches, using their search products to, direct people to my channel. You can't even find my name. You can't find my channel from searching Pockets of the Future on Google, which is like ridiculous. It's hard to find my channel. People have trouble finding it again, even though it's it's a fairly. I mean, I have more subscribers than anything else that comes up. It should be first. Anytime someone searches Pockets of the Future, it should be first, right? In any kind of search. But aside from that, they've changed the algorithms to push people away who are actually looking for content like mine or some other truther, and send them to crappy CNN and Fox, who aren't really YouTubers and are part of the beast, right? And then I have to pay them advertising money to do their job that they should be doing for free to like mutually benefit both of us. And then, I'm getting these incompetent employees and disrespectful, how do you not show up for a meeting, right? And like, where's the email and whatever it is? Like, you're so busy. The guy had like all these meetings open. When I signed up for it, like all of Tuesday was open, all of Wednesday. I mean, like there was multiple time slots. And so the guy isn't, I mean, I don't know what else his responsibilities were, but there are plenty of options for meetings. And then they make it complex and hard to understand. And then it says here, dear customer, we'd love to hear from you. Our Google Ads advisor recently connected with you to help you get the most of your campaign. We'd love to hear your feedback to understand how we can continue to improve the experience. Take a moment to satisfy with your ads consultation, taking a brief survey at the below link. Let's take the survey together here. Feedback on your Google Ad satisfaction. How satisfied were you with your Google Ad consultation? Extremely dissatisfied. How accurate are the following statements regarding Google Ads consultation? My ads advisor had expertise. Ads products help me choose the right solutions. Extremely inaccurate. My ads advisors valued and addressed my questions and concerns. Extremely inaccurate. How likely are you to advertise with Google after this interaction? Zero chance. How could we improve your experience signing up with Google Ads? So this is how I responded to them. One Google Ads advisor argued with me and blamed me. Then she placed my ad in the YouTube search when I wanted a video ad to run before YouTube videos. The second advisor did not show up for our appointment and did not contact me. Before all that, Google flagged my credit card that Google self-recommended. It was on my Google Pay account. How do you stay in business? So that's where I am. This is great. Like, as much as I would like it to work, like I like doing this, This is fun for me if I really thought about it. Like I love apocalyptic stuff, and Google's just breaking down. So is YouTube. They're collapsing, which sucks for me because I don't have a plan B, right, for my channel. And don't give me one because I'm not asking you for one, right? This isn't tell me your plan B for my channel. Whatever. All right, so let's get into the other stuff here. So a lot has happened yesterday. Kind of a lot of resolution. Things have changed. I'm going to put this at the end of the 105th edition of the Journey series, as well as an introduction to this video I'm releasing on Thursday, June 1st on my Pockets of Future channel. That involves kind of a follow-up to the in case I drop like a fly and die suddenly thing. Whatever it was. Here, I can do the whole title here. This is my goodbye video. So I feel a lot different. I had a lot of kind of revelations and experience yesterday and last night. Saw more wild turkeys. I think there's two. It appears there's two wild turkeys that have chicks that are going in and out of our property. So that's cool. And just more like whatever revelations. And I want to weave it together in story form. But the first thing I want to start off by saying is when I made the video, it was because you're in a different state of mind when you become conscious of your death. And it happens every once in a while, right? Somebody close to you dies. Somebody in your high school dies. You have a near-death experience. You're waiting on test results, right? And when that happens, everything else in your life seems insignificant. And when I had that experience, I could have just treated it like a back spasm in terms of how I perceived it. It was just that I had two within a week. And I remembered, when I first had them. I don't get them that often. Like somebody said, it sounds like you have MS, right? I got a few comments like that. Almost all the comments were like overwhelmingly positive and, moving comments. But there was a couple of funny ones or inappropriate ones. But, it's not something that happens regularly. And I don't know exactly what it is. But, I was like, what if it was a heart attack? And of course, I've had the issues with COVID. Another person said, okay, so you got the shot, right? Like there's sometimes you get comments and I'm like, people don't perceive what I'm saying here, right? Like I have a bunch of people said, and I'll get into why I read the comments last night and that had a whole effect here, but I want to get into some of the other ones. So somebody said, you should go off stevia. And I'm not on stevia because I'm not drinking the chai anymore. So, there's all that. Like there's times I'm like, oh, the feedback is, well, we didn't really understand or listen to the video at all, right? So there are a few comments like that, but most of them weren't. But the reason I made the video, and I'm really glad I did, and, there's a flow to the channel and there's like a divine inspiration to the channel, is because I was in that state where I was conscious of my inevitable death, right? And, like I said, when you're in those states, you don't care about other things. what's important to you, what's really what's you, everything clears away what's really important to you. And so it was good that I made the video for some future date, because it's going to be a reflection of that time in the future where I'm in the end part of the death phase. There are times where when you get to what's real in your life, you have profound moments, your day to day, little niggling little problems and little whatever things, and things that are important to you just disappear. And it's like you're really alive, like you're really feeling that. Like, I'm not a thrill seeker, but it's a time where the other things disappear because you're conscious of the fragility of life. And that passes, that state passes. I talk about that movie, The Grand Canyon, a lot, and I don't really like the movie. There's some good parts to it. I talk about that, the channeling story in the movie where the woman gets a baby and she's wondering if she's going to keep the baby or not. And there's some really crazy homeless guy walking by her, and he's just stream of consciousness, and he says, "Keep the baby," as she's jogging through the park, right? But there's another part of it where the Steve Martin character, who's a producer of movies, and he makes really violent movies, B movies, low level movies. And he's leaving like a convenience store, and it's getting robbed, and he gets shot. And he's lying on the ground, and when he's in the hospital, he said, "I'm only going to make good movies. I'm not making violent movies anymore." He had this, come to Jesus moment. And there were a few comments yesterday where people wanted me to come to Jesus. I just want to throw that in. And a few days later, the next time the guy sees him, he's like, "Yeah, I forgot about all that." He's making violent, crappy movies again. And, he had that moment where, things were clear to him. He was going to do the right thing. He was going to go to a higher level. But the moment passes, right? And I knew when people commented, when I read the comments, I wouldn't be in the same state I was when I made the voiceover. And that was what happened. And I'll talk about that. But I was still in a, interesting state last night because I read the comments late last night. Because it passes, right? And so the video will stand there and be there for whatever amount of time, and people can remember it. I don't know how people could be able to find it, and maybe there'll be comments and whatever it is. I don't know, but it'll be something for people to listen to, and for people to whatever, have their resolution or whatever. This will be how I feel, in my last days or whatever it is, when your soul is going to return home. And that's the important way to look at death, because some people are like, well, they felt it was kind of negative. One person said, "I gave the video a thumbs down because I couldn't thumbs up," something like this. But there's nothing negative about it. It's it's about the death process and the ending of things. And the ending of things is often a release. It's often hopefully it's like a job well done type of situation, and you're released to go back to a better whatever it is in terms of your soul. Your soul is moving on to something bigger and better. And that's how it hopefully is for me and all of you, or whatever it is. But first I want to say, so there's a lot of things that tie into this. So my wife and I watched this show called Clarkston's Farm on Amazon Prime, and it was really amazing. And it is some guy, Jeremy Clarkston from England. I had no idea who he was, but apparently he hosts a show, like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show in England. And also he's done some race cars driving stuff. He seemed to be a comedian type person. And I probably wouldn't have liked the guy. I have maybe, I don't want to say prejudice, but, the sort of the elite English people are the epitome, certainly the royal family and these, whatever. The same reason I like the Downton Abbey show, and I shouldn't have. I don't like the aristocracy and the whole whatever it is, but it was just a good show. And this guy had a lot of money, and he owned a farm that other people were farming for him. And he owned miles of acres, like a beautiful property. We could bottle spring water. He had springs and and streams and great pastures and things on it, right? And he decided to go into the farm, and Amazon gave him some money to make a reality show, and it was staged to some extent. Some of the things were clearly didn't happen organically, or the way they filmed the show. But the guy's got a great eye for comedy. He's funny, like he's just a naturally funny person. But he had all these cast of rural characters there that he just the way they edited it, they edited the show, and the way that they presented the show. And anybody who's done any farming knows that things just go wrong. Nature doesn't cooperate. It's just they really capture that element, even though like it's not. Some of it's obviously staged, and they create whatever drama or whatever it is. But the reason I'm talking about it here is not because of that part of it. It's because, especially the second season, has 2 seasons. It's the bureaucracy and the laws in England now, which again, this guy's not. He doesn't farm organically. He's not a. He seems to be like a sort of a Republican person who's against government regulation, and so maybe it's a little bit overhyped, those storylines. But the rules and the way that people, the bureaucracy gets into the business of farmers, plus it's just putting farmers out of business. Their policies, we want to get rid of cows and things globally. I mean, all these things. Diseases, they had, cows had TB and the chickens had to be quarantined. Like there's all these things that he had to deal with that were, government interfering with business and farming, and shortages, and just the farmers, their local farmers talking about how they can't compete with the EU because of all the regulations. And Britain has all those regulations, right? When they gave up firearms, and this is not, I'm not a pro firearm person, but you see this in countries all over the world where they're pushing the Agenda 31 a lot harder. The liberal stuff, all of it, the woke stuff, and some of the environmental things that are, environmentalism. I believe it. We're wrecking the planet, so I'm not a anti-environmentalist, but some of the rules are just stupid. Some of the things are just petty, and I mean all these things. Like he couldn't dig a pond because there was some vole there, like a little mouse-like creature that could be endangered, and like it was just the way he framed the narratives. It really showed you how far they are ahead of us in England in terms of the UN agenda stuff. I mean, I was kind of stunned. My wife and I were stunned by the level of like, you just can't even breathe with the bureaucracy and form filling out, and all the things, anything you want to do is scrutinized, and it's just governmental interference, and they're going to this local stuff. I mean, I'm sure people from England or Europe, some of my viewers will have a better sense of this thing because they know more about what's going on there. But really enjoyed the show, and it's a real stunner and shocker because of the the level of government control. It's just far beyond. I'm grateful to be in America, right? And we dealt with this a little bit in India, the bureaucracy. It is hard to even, you can't function because the government's just like in your ass so much. It's just so bad, right? And so my wife and I watched that show, and we finished watching it last night. And along with that, I was watching a movie called on Netflix called Shadow of the Moon, I believe it's called, something like that. And sometimes my wife will fall asleep, or I'll fall asleep while we're watching TV, or sometimes she'll go to bed earlier than I will, or I'll stay up and watch a basketball game or something. And there are things I'll watch, and I'm like, well, there are things maybe she wouldn't watch or enjoy, or just whatever it is. Like we don't watch many movies. And I might watch it and say, oh, it's pretty good, and we'll watch it together like late or something like this. And so, like, I'll watch it, like if she takes a nap, we're watching TV, I'll put on the basketball game for a little bit. I don't want it. It's not really all that important, but it's the reason I'm saying that is I watched this over a period of 4 days, this movie. And it stars the guy, some guy I don't know was the star of the movie. And then there's the guy from Dexter who plays his brother-in-law. And spoiler alert, I'm going to give the whole plot away. I'm going to go into it because of something that happened there. And it goes with thoughts that I was having about being a truther in this world and how, we're totally discriminated against. And it ties into the Jeremy Clarkson show I was talking about, right? Just the way that everything is kind of against conscious people and how we're being demonized. And so the movie was pretty good. I would say it was a pretty good movie, in itself, but it really angered me. And I don't get angry. I'll talk about that in a moment to these things. And so the movie was about, it starts off in Philadelphia in the 80s. And there's a cop and his wife is pregnant and she's about to give birth. And there's a serial killer and it's injecting people in the back of the head with these 3 points, like there's like three puncture wounds on the back of these people's heads, and when they get injected, they just hemorrhage and blood comes out of their eyes and mouths, and it's kind of disgusting. They like completely fall apart. And there's a guy who's a chef at a diner, a woman who's a bus driver, and a guy who's a concert pianist, and he's playing the piano. And it takes a while after they're injected. And so this woman, when she's driving the bus, the bus crashes and it hurts more people. And, the concert pianist, he's in concert and it happens and all these things. And so it's a young biracial woman, and that's important to the context of the show. And she has like superhuman abilities. Like she beats the crap out of these cops. She beats the crap out of this guy who stars in the show, but he injects her. And she gets hit by a train and is killed. And she says all these things, you should be with your wife right now because she's giving birth. And he goes, how do you know that? Like they're having this conversation, right? And so he goes to the hospital. His wife dies in labor, and he's a single dad with a daughter. And 9 years pass, and the woman shows up again. The woman who he killed was hit by a train. And there's all these protests going on because she was a African American woman. She was biracial, and a mystery woman. No one knows who she is, and she was killed by this cop. And there's a bullet wound in her hand that came from his gun, but he didn't shoot her. And there's all these protests, and he's walking by the protests, and it's like a Black Lives Matter protest. This white cop shot this young woman, but she shows up again and kills his partner, she broke his partner's leg in a fight. Like and she's like 5'4", 100 pounds, like skinny, small girl, right? And she shows up again and says, you got to let this go. I know what it does to you. Stop looking for me. What I'm doing here is like saving the world, basically, right? And she throws him out of a plane. He lands in the ocean and swims to shore. And, he's now realizing there's an Indian scientist, some guy from India, or, Indian descent, who's some kind of genius physicist who tries to explain to these cops who, who mock him, that there's a 9-year black hole type of thing that happens, and it makes it possible for time travel. And he explains it to them, and they blow him off right before the second interaction with this girl. And so 9 years passes, and the guy's a mess. He's homeless. He's living in his car, and he's obsessed with finding this girl in 9 years because he knows she's coming back. He can't find the Indian professor because he's disappeared and gone off grid. And then he's digging up corpses, and he finds this guy who was a truther, a conspiracy theorist, but also kind of one of these right white supremacists. And he finds that he's been killed. They said it was a drug overdose, but the guy actually had the puncture wounds. His corpse did, right? Went into his brain or whatever, his skull. And then he meets the guy's ex-wife, and this guy sent out a newsletter to various people, and it's all this truther newsletter about taking over the government, the kind of stuff you hear in Truther, the way they like to view truthers, right? And I'm like, oh my God, you're going there, right? And I'm really tired. Like I'm falling asleep, my eyes are getting heavy, and there's like a half hour left in the movie, and I'm about to go to bed, and I said I'll finish it. It's going to be 5 days of watching the movie. But I pull out of it, and I'm not as sleepy, and so I decide to watch it, right? And I'm like, I don't want to leave this unresolved. It's tough when you watch things and they're not resolved because it just plays on your subconscious. I've talked about this before. Oh, and there's one more part to this. I got to, before I get to the end of the movie, let me go to talk about this part because it's important. So I talked to a guy at Google yesterday. He just calls me out of the blue. There's no appointment, whatever it was. This guy, I think, is Indian or whatever. I'm not sure. His name's Santosh or I'm not sure. He's not the same guy that I had the appointment with, right? And he's watched some of my videos and he's read through all the file notes. And he put together an ad campaign exactly like I wanted it, right? And he was very competent, good conversation. And he went through, and he wanted to share the screen with me, but there was some kind of reason that it was tough to do on Apple. And I really don't like doing that anyway, where they look at your computer screen. And I said, just walk me through it because I'll remember better if you do, right? And so he put all the things in there. Like he made my video an ad where people see it before their videos, right? On YouTube, when someone has a video before a video, an unskippable ad. It's 15 seconds long, so it's there for, people to watch. And for that reason, I created it in that way, right? And he went through all the various things about it. And he had put a lot of keywords, and it was all comedy, Comedy Central videos, comedy. But he knew that I was kind of a truther, like he knew kind of a sense of my target audience. And we went into it, and I said, well, there were these categories, and the categories that I had a problem with before, and he understood the audience I was targeting. But he's trying to push me to go to international. I'm like, let's just start with an American audience. Let's get more Americans here. And then I'll, maybe if it goes well, I'll make this an international ad or I include some other countries that have truthers in it. And I said, there's all these people who don't believe in the official story. And he understood this, right? He understood the demographic I'm looking for. People who would be open to this kind of thing, right? But there's nothing for this group or for God. And, I was saying this to him and he didn't have an answer. Now, Google, who collects all this information, knows everything about you, right? One of the big information gatherers, right, spires, knows what people think and knows that there's a monstrous truther demographic out there. Makes up 50% of Americans or more. 50% of Americans question the official story of the big event in 2001, the Kennedy assassination, these other things, right? Americans are, truther videos have, got so many views in the past and even now with all the algorithms and things against you. Then they don't have any category for these people as a demographic for people to market to, right? There should be a demographic for us to market to. And so the guy got everything right, but how is this video going to go in front of the right demographics, right? With all their AI technology, and maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they'll he watched the video and he kind of understood what I do here, to whatever extent, that this person can, there's all these NPCs. The woman before him was a disaster, and I, documented that, and the introduction to the video here, not my Journey series one, but the other one you're watching, this one, both. this audio is going on both, but I'm not including that audio in my Journey series. But that other woman was a disaster. And so I'm looking at it like the ad campaign is going in the right direction. He's running it the way I want it to be run. But how is he going to get it out there? And maybe the computer algorithms and the AI bots can figure it out and get it to the right people. And that would be great. We'll see. It's going to take some time. But then he said, how much are you willing to pay per view? People who view the thing. And I'm like, and he had it as $1. And I'm like, I'm not paying $1 per view. Like, and I thought 10 cents was too, I mean, I put 10 cents down, but I'm like, that's even, I wouldn't pay $1 per subscriber. I mean, I don't have that kind of money, right? And it wouldn't be economically viable. Like, it wouldn't be financially viable for me to pay that much money for a subscriber, right? It should be like pennies or less than a penny per subscriber. That would be the only reason I could do this, because subscribers are nothing, right? Like, that doesn't translate to people who are viewing the videos. I mean, I have all these subscribers and I get, between 5 and 10,000 views on my videos, right? And so, with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So right now I'm budgeted to pay $600 a month, $20 a day for a month. And I would need enough subscribers from that to generate $600 a month in that income, either through ads or any number of things, membership or any of these things, right? To make it financially viable, like to just break even and grow my channel. And so, I'm looking at it, and it's because they won't acknowledge truthers, right? And that's why I'm saying it here. So when they come across, when people come in to advertise, and maybe some of the advertisers, the truther demographic, because they have to look at demographics and want to buy your products, what people believe, and market to those demographics. And there's a large number of people who doubt the official story, over 50%. And 1/3 of the population is pretty hardcore truthers in some way or another. They're, awake to this stuff in one way or another, right? And there's all these various groups and demographics in that group. And 10% demographic is a good demographic. I mean, if you could get 10% Americans to buy your products, you would be extremely wealthy, even 1%, right? And so, this is a demographic that they should be marketing to, but they've refused to acknowledge our existence, and that's causing the problem. But let's look at it. There was, I don't know, not that many views on that video. They're starting to run the video as an ad, and I'm up like 12 subscribers. So, we'll see how it goes. But the issue is, and maybe they secretly do, but they don't have any categories that you can go, this is the group I want to target, right? And it speaks to what I'm going to say next with the movie. And so I ended up watching the end of the movie. And again, I was really sleepy, on the verge of sleep. Like, just going to bed and, groggy. My eyes were closed. I dozed off for a second. And they've introduced this idea that truthers are going to destroy the world. And they need to be murdered. And so as they develop the plot, the guy goes and he starts looking for all these truthers and finding that they were targeted and they were on the list. This guy had a mailing list that he was sending this manifesto to, right? Just fitting into the whole stupid narratives that the intelligence community, the mainstream media is putting out there about truthers, that they're all, we're all racist and all white supremacists and these things, right? When, there's 50% of Americans and people all over the world are questioning the official story of the government. And the government itself and the beastly system is evil. And people who wake up to it were a threat, right? And we are a threat and we're not really a threat, because the NPCs and the people around, and this goes into the stuff with Dodgy that I'm dealing with and that I'm not really dealing with now, but, in terms of the, my brothers and sisters in the organization, those people, and you guys are dealing with your relatives and various things. They're incapable, the NPCs are incapable of dealing with truth. All of us struggle. Like, none of us are, just can accept the cold, hard truth. In the Mahabharata, right before the big battle, the first battle, Arjuna, who's the big hero for the heroes, he's the big weapon guy. He's the archer who's, he's this great archer, and he's going to be in charge of killing a lot of people, including loved ones, his teacher, the guy who taught him how to be an archer, his, elder statesman, Bhishma, this guy who's a beloved grandfather-like figure, all these things, right? Beloved uncle. He's got to kill all these people. And he can't do it. He breaks down and starts crying. Says, I can't do it. Throws down his bow. And Krishna says, okay, I'm going to show you my real form. And Krishna is Vishnu, who has this like these two aspects of his soul. One's his ego and one's his soul, and one's Nara and one's Nara Narayana. And Nara is the soul, and Nara Narayana is the ego, I believe. Maybe I'm getting mixed up. Doesn't matter. And Krishna and Arjuna are those two, and those two, the incarnation of those two aspects, right? And so Arjuna is connected to Krishna and his divinity, and Krishna displays himself as the god of preservation. This three energies, right? There's destruction, creation, and preservation, and he shows all of his divine form. And Arjuna's like freaked the f out, and he goes, "Oh, fine, I'll fight. Just don't ever do that again. Don't ever show me that again," right? So his ego can't see his divine form in all its essence, right? His ego is like, I can't see that. Like, it's too much. I'm overwhelmed. It freaked me out. And that's how most people are. Like, most people can't see their ego and all its dark manifestations and its going against divinity. Most people can't take that, like, can't see their own ego. But even more so, they're scared of their soul and God. I mean, all of us to some extent. We're scared of our divinity, right? And so the NPCs are at the very lowest form of this. People who can't see anything. Even if the truth is smacking them in the face, they just won't see it. And so therefore, the truth community isn't a real threat. Because the only real threat the truth community poses is exposing the lie that the system is, right? I've talked about this before. And I was going to say this to the introduction of this video, and now I'm including it in my journey series. But I realized, and I've said this before, but I'm saying it in a different way here, that every time we turn on the TV, the news, or watch something on the internet, and you see a movie like this, and they demonize us as truthers, right? And, it's a form of, it's the ultimate in gaslighting. We're being gaslit all the time, and people are being gaslit about us. And we live in a country in America, but in a world that is militarized, and the governments are killing people left and right. The UN, peacekeepers, just not only through military. We spend more money on military in the U.S. than any other place. And these weapons go out and they kill people, and will kill people in the future. Weapons of mass destruction. But then there's the products, the carcinogens, the all the things that are out there. The biological weapon that was released in terms of COVID, and just all these ways, and the you-know-what, right? That they do horrible things to us, right? Which we've known. And, things that have been fleshed out, mind control programs, and, creating this illusion, and the debt-based economy, and keeping it afloat at all costs, because we're all 100% dependent on it, right? And then to say that all of us who realize what's going on are the problem, right? That we're the ones in this movie, that we're the ones that are going to destroy the world. That we're the ones that have to be prevented from destroying the world, right? And just the overwhelming gaslighting, and just the evil of denying reality, and making you like have to go along with it so you can keep your job, or you have to withhold your truth. And then even on a spiritual level, you have to withhold your truth. And I was thinking about this already, and then I'm seeing this play out in this movie, right? And so this guy, this main character, he's a cop. He's no longer a cop. His daughter is like in college now, like she's 18, because she was born the first night that he encountered this serial killer, and his wife died, right? And he's given her this bracelet, that he gave to his wife when she was giving birth and died right before she died. He had bought her a bracelet, like, kind of weird thing, but it's just part of the storyline. He's given her these charms every year as a kid to put on the bracelet, like as her birthday present. And her birthday signifies what's going on with, this time travel, because it happens, on a cyclical basis. And so he then is waiting for the woman with a gun to show up, because he sees her time travel, in this like sewer drain, and he knows where she's going to come out again in 9 years. And so he's waiting for her. And the Indian guy sees him like he's spying on him, and he's creating this technology. They show the Indian guy creating this thing that's being stabbed in the back of people's heads, and it's an ionizer that's destroying people from the inside out, right? So he's created the weapon that the woman's going to use to kill people in the future, which, she could just use a gun, but this is, you know, it's important to the narrative that these 3 marks are left, these puncture wounds, to, for the plot line. And so the Indian guy captures the guy. He chloroforms him. He's got some employees with him. And he's got him in the back of a van, and he's killed 3 pigs with this, this ionizer. And he just got it to work, right, in the present. So now it's, the first one was in like 1989 or something or whatever. Next one was 1998, so it's 2006 or whatever. And right before that, his daughter called him, said that she wants him back in her life, and she's given birth to, she's about to give birth, and she wants the guy to be there because he's disappeared. He's obsessed with killing this person, this girl, and stopping all these things from happening. Like he's, aware of time travel now because he's seen it. And so he's waiting on the beach with a gun. He gets kidnapped by the guy, and he's got these dead pigs in the back of his van. And the guy's laying there, handcuffed or tied up to the to some part of the van, right, or whatever. His hands are tied, and he starts, getting rid of the rope, right. And the Indian guy says, "Look, I'm making the technology to help this woman. Like she's saving us, saving the world from being destroyed." And so he's making technology. So again, so there's this biracial woman and this Asian man who are in there, killing the white supremacist truthers who are going to destroy the world. Not the nuclear bombs, not the debt-based system, not the pollution or corporate pollution, not the greed, the overpopulation, not any of these things. It's the truthers that are we have to be saved from the truthers, right? Like they're saying that these guys are all, like a representation of all truthers. That's just how this narrative is framed, right? We're being demonized in this way. We're the villains, like so, but the guy breaks free and the van crashes and the pigs and the 2 guys are rolling around, blood's everywhere, right? Because the pigs have had these hemorrhages and the blood's coming out of their eyes and all this stuff. So it's like kind of gross. And the guy's banged up and he leaves and the Indian scientist is shooting at him, but his legs end up being broken and he's ended up being paralyzed, like for the future, right? They're going to show you that, like in a little bit of the movie. But the guy runs to the beach, and the girl comes out, and he holds the gun. And he's going to kill her, and she goes, "You're not going to kill me. I'm your granddaughter, and you're the one who trained me to do this." Because this guy now has consciousness that this list of truthers who receive this manifesto is going to, he knows all this stuff. The Indian guy explains to him that you have to go through the line and kill all of these people, but also their moms and their ancestors and all these, going across history. You have to kill all of them. And so to prevent these events, and that, the only way to do it is to kill all kinds of people, regardless of its effects, and, rearrange time to rid the world of truthers by going back to the past. Like when people say, if I could go back in time travel, I'd go kill Hitler, right? So it's this idea. Did I tell you I had this idea of a reality show where they would get people who claim that they would kill Hitler in a past life, if they could not past life, if they could time travel. And you create like a German village and you bring people back, like you're like a scam, like a practical joke, that they're going to Germany and when Hitler was a boy, and they say that's Hitler over there. They give them like a plan to kill him, and they see if the person would go through with it, that they would kill an innocent boy who would later grow up to be Hitler. I don't know why I would want to watch that. But anyways, so there's this idea that they could kill all these people that are truthers and stop the world from being, destroyed. So the girl shows up at the beach, says that he's her granddaughter, And you held me on the first day I was born, which is today, because she's time traveling now from the future. And she's going back from the most recent time to the beginning. So she hasn't gone and seen him the first time where he kills her. And he says, well, I'm going to kill you. He thinks if he kills her, that his life will go back to normal, his wife will be alive, and that he won't be a crazy homeless guy that's obsessed with, preventing this all from happening. But then she shows him the charms that her mom gave, and she says, you're going to train me and teach me to do all this stuff, and you're going to, hook me up with this Indian guy, and together, we're going to kill all these truthers, right? And that you're the one. And he shows up at the hospital, and they show kind of what happened with it. She said one of these truthers went out and put out a bomb, and one of these, and they just started a civil war, and the country was destroyed, and this is the only way of preventing it, is to kill all these innocent people, whether they're parents or some ancestor or whatever it is. And she's going through time with this device, and I just pissed me off. I don't get angry, which you guys know. I cover stuff every day, even stuff with Dodgy, which sucks, and all the things that have gone wrong. That's personal to me, but I cover stuff on a daily basis here, and the depravity of people, the negative people, all the stuff that's out there. And I see the stuff of humanity doing poorly. And a lot of it is aggravating and angry, anger produced. And then I just don't get angry because I couldn't do my job if I did. I couldn't do this on a daily basis. It can't affect me. And when I'm watching TV shows or movies, there's always a potential I'm going to talk about them here. But I went from being almost asleep to being angry, right? Just them demonizing us in this way. People who question the official story of an evil government, of an evil system that's taken us all away from God and has, brought us to a point of disaster that the system itself is destroyed and we're all 100% dependent on it. And humanity is going to have to eke its way out of this stuff. And that they want to blame us for being aware and conscious about it, right? Not take responsibility for the evil they've put out there. And this character who I never really talked about, this guy who plays Dexter, he was in a couple of these shows, but he plays a serial killer who's a hero, right? In this movie that's bloodthirsty and, very, it's got a lot of symbology and stuff in it. But somehow truthers are the problem, right? And now I can't go to sleep, right? And so I was just about ready to go to bed, and I'm like, wow, and I look at my phone, and I got an email, an email from YouTube saying the video on my Apocalypse Now channel got copyrighted, and I knew what it was immediately. And I've done this stuff. If you've seen that video, it was up on Wednesday, and it was I did a compilation. I redid my compilation of all these politicians pretending somebody faints in the audience, and they're being all competent, and I documented this, and I remade the compilation, and in it there's a clip from CBS News that shows Trump calling for a doctor when somebody passed out, and it's all these people, Obama and all of it. And I made a short video about it, and I've made this compilation that I can use in future videos, and CBS chose to play a song and put some music over the Trump speech, which was weird. And it was a weird song, and I bet they copyrighted that song, and I knew it when I put the video. It might be a problem, but they didn't catch it right away. It was manually reviewed, and now they're demonetizing my video. So, I get my computer, which is off, and I come and get it, and it's in my our bedroom. My wife's sleeping. I get it out without waking her out, and I go and there's an option to edit out, trim out the segment or the song, and I trim out the song, so that that I can get revenue from my video, right? And that's I'm already angry, and I have to turn the computer back on. The dogs are put away, and they're in their beds, and I'm sitting there, and I'm wide awake. And I don't want to lay in bed, and I'll do a little cleaning and things, but I know it's not going to be enough to help me go back to a state of being sleepy, right? And I'm agitated by what I just saw, and I knew there was all these comments to my video where I'm saying this is my goodbye video in case whenever I die I'm putting this video up, And I was kind of avoiding reading them all day. And, of course, the guy called me from YouTube and other things happened, so I didn't have the time to read the comments. And, I just barely got the video done and put out. And so I said, I'm going to read the comments now. And it's like I'm sitting there on the couch, it's dark, just the computer's on. And I'm going through all the comments, and I wanted to give them attention because I, knew that there were people going to emote and, tell me how much I meant to them, these things. And I was in a different state of mind and, than I was when I made the video. So it was going to be a little bit harder to read through these comments because, I knew that people would be emotional and things like this. And, I mean, it's tough for me, these things. So I start reading through the comments, and there's all these, wonderful comments and, moving comments from people. Most of the comments were very significant, and, people who don't comment usually, I mean, people were affected by the video. And, but I want to end this with this here. There were a number of comments where people were trying to diagnose me or, and usually I would ban people for that, but I didn't because it was just, people were concerned, and some of the stuff was helpful. Somebody sent me something about taking a half an ounce of olive oil, and it's hard to find real olive oil. A lot of it's fake, but real olive oil, and a half ounce of lemon juice, and a dash of cayenne pepper in the morning before you eat, and things like this. And I've been doing that for 2 or 3 days, and I feel like it's working. It's a way to get rid of a fatty liver, which is, but part of the thing is, some of it has to do with me having COVID. Some of it is just weaknesses. COVID attacks the weaknesses in your system and things, and, some of it's just, but it's all like part of a plan. And I've been aware of that because I feel like me making that video was significant. It was important to the context of all this going on. And all these things, watching that movie and watching the farm movie with this guy and the farm TV show, and just all these things are going on in my life that, seeing the wild turkeys, which have a significance in the, Native American Druid animal guides. Animals come to you and they bring energy and they mean something. They have symbolic meaning to your life, and, all these things. They're doing the YouTube ads at the same time. None of it's an accident. It's part of a plan. Now that this stuff that's happening, and then Heartfulness and Gratefullness and stuff with Dodgy and all these things, it's all part of a plan. And my physical health is very erratic and inconsistent. It has issues with cleaning. It has ties to cleaning that happen, with gatherings and, the meditation that I do. And, when I was in India, we had our extended stay. My son got dengue fever, and he had a fever of 106. And, your body has to get up to 106 to kill the dengue. But when that happens, your blood vessels can rupture, very much like you can hemorrhage, like in this movie, this thing that was, tied to this movie. And at the same time, I got really sick and weak, where I could barely walk to the ashram, which was about a quarter of a mile away from our flat. I just couldn't move. And I was sick for a little bit longer than my son. I just couldn't get better. And then it became something that was respiratory. And there was a night where my son was laying around the floor, and my ex and my other son, my older son, were watching him like have like a seizure. And he was unconscious, but he was like flailing around. It was really hard to see. And my other son had a bike from somebody. We were in India, and he drove over to we had no way of contacting this guy who was he would be considered an acupuncturist, but it was an ancient Indian system of acupuncture that was created by this guy Ravana, who was the villain in the Ramayana. He had gone to Sri Lanka, which I have ties to, of course, which I've talked about in my journey series, staying there when, this is when my divorce began, or basically the splitting up of our family. And he said that Ravana created the first energy system, like an acupuncture system, as well as the first martial arts. And then later, went to China and things like this, and the other Asian countries. But my son goes and gets the guy, right? He he flies by me because I'm out in the street trying to flag down a taxi, and I have a fever myself, and I'm weak. And there's all these little dogs in India, like in the cities, that are wild dogs. They look like little dingoes. Most of them are brown. I've talked about the Bucky story before in my Journey series. This nice family had rescued this one dog, and it was significant when we went through the flood. I'm not going to retell that here, but there's all these dogs, and I watched these dogs once climb up a 14-foot wall and knock down these little squirrels that look like chipmunks with squirrel tails. And I couldn't believe how athletic they were because they were very passive. You'd walk by them and they would roll on their backs, and these dogs, they were just everywhere. There's little, and then there was all these puppies that were born, and the mom didn't have enough food, and they were basically wild dogs, street dogs. And there was a time where we were seeing dead puppies all the time. Like we'd walk to the ashram, and there'd just be a dead puppy. Like, oh, I hope I didn't see a dead puppy today. It was like this, right? But these dogs were very passive. Some of the people would feed them. Some of the Abhyasis would feed some of the dogs, but they were everywhere. There was, hundreds of them in a block area. And I go out looking for a cab, and the dogs are out barking. And they're surrounding, there's dogs on every side. I can see some of them, and some of them I can't. And they're all barking now. And I'm like, they're not passive now. They're like these wild night dogs, right? And here I am on the street with a fever, and my son's having seizures, and so eventually, my son gets better. And, he's had dengue one time, and, there's 4 strands of dengue. So, if he gets it again, it's kind of a stressful thing. And I, don't get better. And now it's like in my chest, and I'm pretty sure I'm positive based on everything that I'm reading, that I have tuberculosis, which is still a thing in India, which would have been a nightmare. I would have had to be quarantined. I mean, everything would have changed had I been diagnosed with TB. Everything in my family, everything that later on would happen. And I'm really sure I have it. And I have this like green mucus, I'm coughing, all this stuff, all these symptoms. And my ex thought I had it too. She didn't say anything to me, but she did a little research, and we were both positive I had it. So I go in to get it tested, and I wake up and I feel better. Like I don't feel like I have the same symptoms. And it's like spiritually it was removed. Like I had it, and then they, because I went through cleaning, it was like I won't call it a miracle, but I was sure I had it. And then when I was driving early in the morning to get tested, all this blood work and other things, and they say I got this weird infection that people get when they're in the hospital, and it's called, it sounded like a dinosaur's name. I don't know what it is, but it isn't a big deal. And it went from being something horrible like TB to being something that was, with a little rest, and I got better like in a week. And I looked at it like, and I've had this before where there was an impending disaster, but because of the samskara cleaning, and I talk about this a lot in my Journey series and my other spiritual videos, these samskaras that get cleaned off through the Sajmark system and through, your life experience. But, everything that happens is orchestrated, and some of the bad things, all the bad things, are used for spiritual benefit. And I'm bringing this up because of these experiences that unfolded to have me make that video, and then do this voiceover. And that's the way I look at it in terms of illnesses. Like I do my best. I'm all kinds of supplements. I'm trying to rebuild my immune system since having COVID, but all those things were meant to be. Like me having COVID and me. All the things that were related to open my eyes to all the truther stuff and, all of it, right? And then, all the things that Daji's doing in the organization and, all the stuff to do with that. All the things. Like, it's not an accident. And whether it's painful or not, or whether it's, whatever it is, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why you're listening to my videos. There's a reason that you show up here, right? There's a reason for the connection. And knowing there's a plan makes it much more bearable. Like this is something, when you're going through something tough, like I was the other night when I was having the back spasms and I was contemplating my own death, and, I was pretty relaxed about it. But I was thinking about it and its effects and all these things. But there's, if there is a plan and there is a God, then, which I have seen over and over again, it makes it all acceptable. It makes, whatever's going on, the good things, the bad things, whatever. It makes everything lighter because it's orchestrated in some reason. There's a point, there's a purpose, and we all have that. Okay, so I'm going to end this here. I'm going to end my Journey series video here, as well as I was going to make a video today. I had some Trump stuff to get to and some stuff with Federman, but now this is pretty long as it is. So I'm just going to put this out here as a follow-up to my, Journey series video. A follow-up to my, Goodbye Crew World video or whatever it is. And I also want to say, I was talking about things I was grateful for in terms of my audience. But, this has been my support system in the Journey series video, the audience here, you guys. And also in terms of, a lot of the information I've gotten from people about health things has helped me. People have recommended things to me that supplements I'm now taking, or things that I'm doing, the acupuncture stuff with the meridians and things. Somebody sent me a video. And stretching, a stretch for my back my wife and I use, and for my lower back, different than the spasm. But there have been all these things that have been sent to me by people that have been helpful, and again, I don't like when people I get bombarded with stuff, but occasionally something resonates and it's effective. So I'm grateful for that. But anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paravano, definitely born from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.